Meditation doesn't work with your schedule, but a midday mindfulness break fits perfectly. The key is to find what works for you and your unique circumstances. It's also crucial to recognize that forming new habits takes time. While implementation intentions can significantly increase your chances of success, they're not magic. Consistency and repetition are still necessary to truly ingrain a new behavior. Be patient with yourself and celebrate the small victories along the way. One often overlooked aspect of habit formation is the importance of context. Our behaviors are heavily influenced by our environment, so it's worth considering how you can set up your surroundings to support your new habits. If you're trying to read more, keep a book visible in your living room. If you want to exercise in the morning, lay out your workout clothes the night before. These small environmental cues can serve as powerful reminders and make it easier to follow through on your intentions. As you progress on your journey of habit formation, you may find that your new behaviors start to feel more natural and automatic. This is a sign that the habit is becoming ingrained. However, it's important not to become complacent. Continue to use implementation intentions and habit stacking to reinforce your positive behaviors and to tackle new goals. Remember, the process of personal growth and habit formation is ongoing. There will always be new skills to learn, new habits to form, and new goals to pursue. By mastering the art of implementation intentions and habit stacking, you're equipping yourself with powerful tools that can serve you throughout your life. In conclusion, the path to lasting behavior change begins with awareness and is paved with specific, actionable plans. By verbalizing our intentions, creating clear implementation intentions, and strategically stacking new habits onto existing ones, we can dramatically increase our chances of success. These techniques leverage our brain's natural tendencies and help us overcome the gap between intention and action. As you move forward, consider the habits you want to form or the goals you want to achieve. How can you create specific implementation intentions for these aspirations? What existing habits can you use as anchors for new behaviors? By applying these principles consistently and patiently, you can gradually reshape your daily routines and, by extension, your life. Remember, every great achievement starts with a single, well-planned step. Your journey to a better you begins now, with the next habit you choose to implement. The power of habits and their interconnectedness in our daily lives is a fascinating subject that deserves deep exploration. Let's delve into how our possessions and behaviors can trigger chains of actions and how we can harness this phenomenon to build positive habits. Consider the story of Denis Diderot, the 18th century French philosopher. Upon receiving a beautiful scarlet robe as a gift, Diderot found himself in an unexpected predicament. The robe's elegance stood in stark contrast to his other, more modest possessions. This disparity created a sense of disharmony in his surroundings, leading Diderot to embark on a spending spree to upgrade his belongings. This cascade of purchases, triggered by a single item, illustrates a common human tendency now known as the Diderot effect. It's a pattern we can observe in various aspects of our lives. Think about the last time you bought a new piece of clothing. Did you find yourself suddenly eyeing accessories to match? Or perhaps you've experienced the domino effect of home decorating, where changing one element leads to a complete room makeover. The Diderot effect extends beyond material possessions. It's a principle that applies to our behaviors and habits as well. Our actions are rarely isolated instead. They form part of a continuous chain of events. One behavior naturally leads to another, creating a sequence that can either work for or against us. This interconnectedness of actions is evident in our daily routines. Consider your morning ritual. The alarm goes off. You get out of bed, brush your teeth, shower, get dressed, and so on. Each action serves as a cue for the next, creating a seamless flow of behaviors. Understanding this connection is crucial because it provides insight into how we can effectively build new habits. The concept of habit stacking, developed by B.J. Fogg as part of his Tiny Habits program, leverages this behavioral chain reaction. The idea is simple yet powerful: attach a new habit to an existing one. By doing so, you create a natural trigger for the new behavior, increasing the likelihood of its successful integration into your routine. The formula for habit stacking is straightforward. After current habit, I will new habit. This approach eliminates the need to rely on willpower or memory alone to implement a new habit. Instead, you're piggybacking on an established behavior, making the new habit feel like a natural extension of your existing routine. Let's explore some practical applications of habit stacking. Suppose you want to incorporate a brief meditation practice into your day. You might decide, after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 minute. The act of pouring coffee, something you already do every day, becomes the cue for your new meditation habit. Or consider the goal of increasing physical activity. You could establish the habit stack after I take off my work shoes. I will immediately change into my workout clothes. This simple act of changing clothes can serve as a powerful trigger to get you moving, even on days when motivation is low. The beauty of habit stacking lies in its flexibility and scalability. You can start with small, manageable habits and gradually build more complex routines. For instance, you might begin with a simple evening routine after dinner. I will put my dishes in the dishwasher. Once this becomes automatic, you can expand it after putting my dishes away. I will wipe down the kitchen counter, and further, after wiping the counter, I will set out my coffee mug for tomorrow morning. By chaining these small actions together, you create a positive version of the Diderot effect. Each completed task provides a sense of accomplishment and momentum, making it easier to move on to the next action in your stack. It's important to note that the effectiveness of habit stacking depends on choosing the right cue. The trigger should be as specific and actionable as possible. Vague cues can lead to inconsistency and eventually the abandonment of the new habit. For example, when I take a break for lunch is less effective than when I close my laptop for lunch. The latter provides a clear, unmistakable signal to initiate the next action. Moreover, the frequency of your chosen cue should match the desired frequency of your new habit. If you want to establish a daily habit, it needs to be stacked on top of another daily occurrence. Attaching a daily habit to a weekly event is a recipe for inconsistency. To identify potential habit stacks, it can be helpful to create a detailed list of your current daily habits and routines. This inventory serves as a map of your day, highlighting natural points where new habits can be inserted. Consider both actions you take, like brushing your teeth, and events that happen to you, like the sun setting. This comprehensive view of your day can reveal unexpected opportunities for habit formation. The power of habit stacking extends beyond personal development. It can be applied in various contexts, from improving social skills to managing finances. For instance, you might decide, when I walk into a party, I will introduce myself to someone I don't know yet. Or when I want to buy something over $100, I will wait 24 hours before purchasing. These habit stacks can help automate beneficial behaviors, reducing the mental effort required to make good choices. One particularly intriguing application of habit stacking is in cultivating mindfulness and improving mood. By associating brief moments of reflection or positivity with routine actions, you can significantly impact your overall well-being. For example, when the phone rings, I will take one deep breath and smile before answering. This simple stack can transform potentially stressful moments into opportunities for calm and positivity. It's worth noting that habit stacking isn't just about adding new behaviors. It can also be used to break undesirable habits. By identifying the cues that trigger negative habits, you can insert alternative, positive actions. This approach allows you to redirect the chain of behaviors in a more beneficial direction. As you experiment with habit stacking, remember that flexibility and patience are key. What works for one person may not work for another, and what works at one point in your life may need adjustment as circumstances change. Be willing to tweak your habit stacks if they're not quite clicking. The goal is to create a system that feels natural and sustainable for you. Moreover, don't underestimate the power of small habits. While it might seem insignificant to meditate for just 1 minute or do only 10 push-ups, these small actions serve a crucial purpose. They help establish the neural pathways associated with the new behavior, making it easier to expand the habit over time. Starting small reduces the activation energy required to begin, making it more likely that you'll follow through consistently. Another interesting aspect of habit stacking is its potential to create a ripple effect in your life. As you successfully implement one positive habit, you may find yourself more motivated and capable of tackling other areas of self-improvement. This can lead to a virtuous cycle of personal growth, where each new habit builds upon the last, gradually transforming your daily routines and, by extension, your life. It's also worth considering how habit stacking can be applied in professional settings. Organizations can use this principle to improve workflows, enhance productivity, and foster a positive company culture. For instance, a team might implement a habit stack like, after our weekly meeting, we will spend 5 minutes acknowledging team members' contributions. This simple addition can boost morale and reinforce a culture of appreciation. As we navigate an increasingly complex world, the ability to form and maintain beneficial habits becomes ever more crucial. Habit stacking offers a powerful tool in this pursuit, allowing us to harness the natural flow of our daily lives to effect positive change. By understanding and applying this principle, we can transform the Diderot effect from a potential source of unnecessary consumption into a force for personal growth and improvement. In essence, habit stacking is about more than just forming new habits. It's about redesigning our lives in intentional ways. It's a reminder that our days are made up of countless small decisions and actions, each of which has the potential to steer us towards our goals. By carefully curating these actions and linking them together, we can create a daily experience that aligns more closely with our aspirations and values. As you move forward, consider the habits you'd like to cultivate in your own life. What existing routines could serve as anchors for these new behaviors? How might you chain several small habits together to create a more significant positive impact? Remember, the journey of personal growth is ongoing, and habit stacking provides a flexible, powerful framework to support this journey. By embracing the interconnected nature of our behaviors and leveraging it through habit stacking, we open up new possibilities for self-improvement. Whether your goal is to boost productivity, enhance well-being, or simply bring more intentionality to your daily life, this approach offers a practical, accessible path forward. So why not start today? Choose one small habit you'd like to cultivate, find a suitable existing routine to stack it on, and take that first step towards positive change. After all, as the Diderot effect shows us, one small change can set in motion a far-reaching transformation. In the realm of personal development and behavior change, we often place a great deal of emphasis on willpower and motivation. We believe that if we can just muster enough inner strength or find the right source of inspiration, we'll be able to transform our habits and achieve our goals. However, emerging research and real-world experiments are beginning to paint a different picture, one where our environment plays a far more significant role in shaping our actions than we might have previously thought. Consider the case of Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston, where a primary care physician named Anne Thorndike conducted a fascinating experiment. Her hypothesis was simple yet revolutionary. She believed she could improve the eating habits of thousands of hospital staff and visitors without directly engaging with them or attempting to boost their motivation. Instead, she focused on altering the environment in which people made their food and drink choices. Thorndike and her team redesigned the hospital cafeteria, making subtle changes to the arrangement of food and drinks. They added water as an option in refrigerators that previously only contained soda, and placed baskets of bottled water near food stations throughout the room. The results were striking. Over a 3-month period, soda sales dropped by 11.4%, while bottled water sales increased by 25.8%. Similar adjustments to food placement yielded comparable results. What's particularly noteworthy about this experiment is that it achieved significant behavior change without any direct communication or motivational tactics. People's choices were influenced simply by the adjustment of their environment. This phenomenon highlights a crucial principle in behavior science. Our actions are often shaped more by our surroundings than by our internal drive or conscious decision-making. This concept isn't entirely new. Back in 1936, psychologist Kurt Lewin proposed a simple yet powerful equation: behavior is a function of the person in their environment, or BFPE. This formula suggests that our actions are not solely determined by our personality or intentions, but are significantly influenced by the context in which we find ourselves. The business world was quick to catch on to this idea. In 1952, economist Hawkins Stern described what he called suggestion impulse buying, where a shopper purchases a product not because they had a pre-existing need for it, but because of how it was presented to them. This insight has shaped retail strategies for decades. Items placed at eye level in stores tend to sell better than those on lower shelves. Expensive brands are often positioned in easy-to-reach locations, while cheaper alternatives are tucked away. End-of-aisle displays, known as end caps, are particularly effective at driving sales. For instance, a staggering 45% of Coca-Cola sales come from these strategic placements. The power of environmental cues extends far beyond retail settings. Our behavior in various contexts is often shaped by subtle environmental factors. In a church, people tend to speak in hushed tones without being explicitly told to do so. On a dark street, we become more alert and cautious. These behavioral shifts occur almost automatically in response to our surroundings. Understanding this principle can be transformative in our approach to habit formation and personal growth. Instead of relying solely on willpower or motivation, we can leverage our environment to support our desired behaviors. This approach is not only more effective but often requires less conscious effort. Consider how this might apply to common goals like reading more or eating healthier. Rather than simply willing ourselves to read more, we might place books in prominent locations around our home, making them the easiest entertainment option to reach for. Instead of trying to resist unhealthy snacks through sheer willpower, we could remove them from our immediate environment and ensure that healthier options are readily available. The concept of environmental design for behavior change is particularly powerful because of how our brains process information from our surroundings. Humans are heavily reliant on visual cues of the approximately 11 million sensory receptors in the human body. About 10 million are dedicated to sight. Some experts estimate that half of the brain's resources are used on vision. This means that what we see in our environment has an outsized impact on our behavior. Given this, it's crucial to create environments that support our goals and desired habits. This might involve setting up a dedicated workspace for productivity, organizing our kitchen to make healthy cooking easier, or even using visual reminders for important tasks or habits we want to cultivate. The good news is that while we are influenced by our environment, we also have the power to shape it. We can be the architects of our surroundings, deliberately designing them to support our goals and desired behaviors. This approach to behavior change is often more sustainable and less mentally taxing than relying on constant conscious effort. An interesting example of the power of environmental design comes from a study conducted in the Netherlands during the 1970s energy crisis. Researchers found that in one suburb, some homeowners used 30% less energy than their neighbors, despite living in similar homes and paying the same price for electricity. The key difference? The location of the electrical meter. Homes with the meter in the main hallway used significantly less electricity than those with meters in the basement. The visibility of energy usage in daily life was enough to influence behavior without any other intervention. This principle can be applied to various aspects of our lives. Want to drink more water? Keep a filled water bottle within arm's reach at all times. Trying to exercise more? Leave your workout clothes and shoes by your bed so they're the first thing you see in the morning. Want to eat more fruit? Keep a bowl of fresh fruit on your kitchen counter. The key is to make the cues for your desired habits obvious and the cues for undesired habits less visible. This might mean hiding the TV remote if you want to watch less television, or keeping your phone in another room if you're trying to reduce screen time. By manipulating your environment, you can make good habits easier and bad habits harder. It's important to note that while environmental design is powerful, it's not a magic solution. It works best when combined with other strategies for habit formation, such as setting clear intentions, starting with small, manageable changes, and being consistent in your efforts. The environment serves as a support system for your intentions, making it easier to follow through on your goals. Moreover, the most effective environmental designs are often personalized. What works for one person might not work for another. It's crucial to pay attention to your own behavior patterns and adjust your environment accordingly. This might involve some trial and error, but the process of refining your environment can be an enlightening journey of self-discovery. Another interesting aspect of environmental design is its potential for creating ripple effects. When you change one aspect of your environment to support a particular habit, you might find that it influences other behaviors as well. For instance, setting up a meditation corner in your home might not only increase your meditation practice but also lead to more reading or journaling time in that peaceful space. It's also worth considering how this principle applies in shared spaces or organizational settings. How might a company design its office to promote collaboration or creativity? How can a school arrange its classrooms to enhance learning? These are questions that move beyond individual habit formation and into the realm of collective behavior change. The concept of environmental design for behavior change also raises some ethical considerations. While it can be used for positive outcomes, like promoting healthier eating or energy conservation, it could potentially be misused for manipulation or to promote behaviors that aren't in people's best interests. As we become more aware of how our environment shapes our behavior, it's important to be mindful of who is designing the environments we inhabit and for what purpose. In conclusion, while motivation and willpower certainly have their place in behavior change, the role of our environment is often underestimated. By understanding and leveraging the power of environmental cues, we can create contexts that naturally support our desired behaviors and make positive changes more sustainable. Whether you're trying to build a new habit, break an old one, or simply optimize your daily routines, consider how you can design your environment to work for you rather than against you. Remember, you are not just a passive participant in your environment, you have the power to shape it. By becoming the architect of your surroundings, you can create a world that nudges you towards your goals and aspirations. This approach to personal growth and habit formation is not about forcing change through sheer will, but about creating an ecosystem that supports and nurtures the person you want to become. So, the next time you find yourself struggling to stick to a new habit or achieve a goal, take a step back and look at your environment. What cues are present? What behaviors does your current setup encourage or discourage? How might you adjust your surroundings to make your desired actions easier and more natural? By asking these questions and making deliberate changes to your environment, you can harness the invisible forces that shape behavior and use them to your advantage. In the end, lasting change often comes not from changing who you are, but from changing the world around you. By understanding and applying the principles of environmental design, you can create a context that supports your growth, makes your desired behaviors almost effortless, and helps you become the person you aspire to be. The power of our environment in shaping our behavior is often underestimated. We tend to believe that our actions are primarily driven by our willpower and conscious decisions, but the reality is far more nuanced. The spaces we inhabit and the objects that surround us play a crucial role in determining our habits and routines, often in ways we don't even realize. Consider for a moment the habits you'd like to cultivate or the ones you're struggling to break. Perhaps you want to read more books, exercise regularly, or cut down on snacking. Now, take a look around your living space. Are there visible cues that support these desired behaviors, or is your environment working against you? The truth is, every habit begins with a cue or trigger that initiates the behavior. When these cues are hidden or subtle, it becomes all too easy to ignore them and fall back into old patterns. Think about that guitar tucked away in the closet, rarely played because it's out of sight. Or the vitamins pushed to the back of the pantry, forgotten until they expire. These scenarios illustrate how our environment can inadvertently sabotage our best intentions. But what if we could harness this environmental influence to our advantage? By deliberately designing our spaces to support our goals, we can create a powerful ally in our quest for personal growth and habit formation. Let's explore a fascinating example from Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. In the early 1990s, the cleaning staff faced a persistent problem with spillage around the urinals in men's restrooms. Their solution was brilliantly simple. They added a small sticker that looked like a fly near the center of each urinal. This tiny environmental change had a remarkable effect. Men instinctively aimed at what they perceived to be an insect, significantly improving their accuracy and reducing mess. This clever design not only solved a practical problem but also cut cleaning costs by 8% annually. This example demonstrates the profound impact that small, strategic changes to our environment can have on behavior. It's not about forcing change through willpower alone, but about creating contexts that naturally guide us towards desired actions. Consider how this principle might apply to your own life. If you're trying to eat healthier, for instance, you could replicate the strategy I used with apples. Instead of hiding fruits and vegetables in the crisper drawer where they're easily forgotten, place them in a prominent bowl on the kitchen counter. This simple change makes healthy snacks the most visible and accessible option, increasing the likelihood that you'll reach for them instead of less nutritious alternatives. The key is to make the cues for your desired habits obvious and unavoidable. Want to remember to take your medication? Place the pill bottle next to your toothbrush. Aiming to practice an instrument more often? Set up the instrument stand in the middle of your living room. Hoping to express more gratitude? Keep thank you notes and stamps on your desk where you'll see them daily. By populating your environment with these visual reminders and cues, you're essentially programming your surroundings to prompt the behaviors you want to encourage. It's like setting up a series of friendly nudges throughout your day, each one gently steering you towards your goals. But the influence of our environment goes beyond just visual cues. The entire context surrounding a behavior can become associated with the habit over time. This is why many people drink more in social situations than they would alone. It's not just the presence of alcohol that triggers the behavior, but the whole atmosphere, the music, the friends, the setting. Understanding this context-dependent nature of habits opens up new strategies for change. If you're struggling to establish a new habit or break an old one, sometimes the most effective approach is to change your environment entirely. This is why people often find it easier to adopt new routines when they move to a new home or start a new job. The new context is free from the ingrained associations of the old one, providing a clean slate for establishing different patterns. However, you don't need to make a major life change to leverage this principle. Even small environmental shifts can be powerful. If you're trying to establish a writing habit, for example, you might designate a specific corner of your home as your writing spot. Use this space only for writing, and over time, your brain will begin to associate that location with the act of writing, making it easier to slip into a creative mindset when you sit down there. This strategy of associating specific context with specific behaviors can be applied to various areas of life. Having trouble falling asleep? Train yourself to use your bed only for sleeping. If you can't fall asleep within a reasonable time, get up and do something relaxing in another room until you feel tired. Over time, your brain will learn to associate your bed solely with sleep, making it easier to drift off when you lie down. The power of context in shaping our habits also highlights the importance of creating clear boundaries between different areas of our lives. In today's world, where many of us work from home, it's increasingly common for our professional and personal lives to blur together. This can make it difficult to switch off from work mode and fully relax. I experienced this challenge firsthand when I started my entrepreneurial career. Working from my couch or kitchen table, I found it nearly impossible to establish a clear end to my workday. The solution came when I was able to set up a dedicated home office. Suddenly, work became something that happened in a specific room, while the rest of my home was for personal life. This physical separation created a psychological boundary, making it much easier to transition between work and relaxation. This concept of one space, one use can be a powerful tool in organizing your life and habits. By assigning specific activities to specific areas, you create mental shortcuts that help you slip into the right mindset for each task. Your kitchen becomes a place for cooking and enjoying meals, your bedroom a sanctuary for rest, your desk a focus zone for work or study. When designing your environment to support your habits, it's crucial to think not just in terms of objects, but relationships. The items in your space aren't just things, they're potential triggers for behaviors. That comfortable armchair might be a reading nook for one person, but a TV watching spot for another. The associations we form with our surroundings are deeply personal and can significantly influence our actions. This perspective shift from seeing your environment as a collection of objects to a web of relationships can be transformative. It encourages you to be more intentional about how you interact with your space and the items in it. Each time you enter a room or use an object, you're reinforcing a particular behavior pattern. By being mindful of these interactions, you can start to reshape them in ways that align with your goals. Another powerful strategy is to increase the number of positive cues in your environment while decreasing negative ones. If you're trying to read more, for instance, you might place books in every room of your house, creating multiple reminders of your reading goal. Conversely, if you're trying to watch less television, you could hide the remote control or even cover the TV when it's not in use. It's worth noting that our modern digital environments are just as influential as our physical ones, if not more so. The apps on our phone's home screen, the bookmarks in our browser, the notifications we allow, all of these act as cues that shape our behavior. Applying the principles of environmental design to our digital spaces can be incredibly powerful. Something as simple as rearranging your phone's apps to make productive tools more visible and distracting ones less accessible can have a significant impact on your daily habits. As you embark on this journey of environmental design, remember that it's an iterative process. What works for someone else might not work for you, and what works for you today might need adjustment in the future. Be willing to experiment, observe the results, and make changes as needed. The goal is to create an environment that feels natural and supportive, not one that feels forced or restrictive. It's also important to approach this process with self-compassion. Changing habits is challenging, and there will likely be setbacks along the way. Instead of viewing these as failures, see them as valuable data points that can inform your next iteration of environmental design. Ultimately, the power of environmental design lies in its ability to make desired behaviors easier and undesired behaviors harder. By thoughtfully arranging your surroundings, you can create a world that naturally guides you towards your goals, reducing the need for constant willpower and conscious decision-making. This approach to personal growth and habit formation is about working smarter, not harder. It's about recognizing that we are not separate from our environment, but deeply interconnected with it. By becoming active designers of our spaces, both physical and digital, we can harness the subtle yet powerful forces that shape our daily actions. So take a moment to look around you. What story does your current environment tell about your habits and priorities? What changes could you make to better align your surroundings with your aspirations? Remember, you have the power to shape your world, and in doing so, to shape yourself. By creating spaces that support your goals and values, you're not just changing your environment, you're changing your life, one small cue at a time. The interplay between our environment and our habits is a fascinating area of study that challenges many long-held beliefs about willpower, addiction, and behavior change. To truly understand how we can shape our habits, and by extension, our lives, we need to delve into the subtle yet powerful ways our surroundings influence our actions. Let's begin with a startling discovery made during the Vietnam War. In 1971, Congressman Robert Steele and Morgan Murphy uncovered a shocking fact: over 15% of U.S. soldiers stationed in Vietnam were heroin addicts. Further research revealed that the problem was even more widespread, with up to 35% of service members having tried heroin and as many as 20% being addicted. This revelation sent shockwaves through Washington and led to the creation of the Special Action Office of Drug Abuse Prevention under President Nixon. The office was tasked with addressing this crisis, including tracking addicted service members upon their return home. What happened next would challenge everything we thought we knew about addiction. Researcher Lee Robbins, who was involved in studying these returning soldiers, made a groundbreaking discovery. Contrary to the prevailing belief that heroin addiction was a permanent, irreversible condition, Robbins found that only 5% of the soldiers who had used heroin in Vietnam became re-addicted within a year of returning home. Even more remarkably, only 12% relapsed within 3 years. This finding was revolutionary. It suggested that addiction wasn't solely about the substance or the individual's willpower. Instead, it pointed to the crucial role of environment in shaping and maintaining addictive behaviors. The soldiers in Vietnam were surrounded by cues that triggered heroin use: easy access to the drug, the constant stress of war, friendships with other users, and distance from their normal lives. When they returned home, these environmental triggers were absent, and for many the addiction simply faded away. This stands in stark contrast to the typical experience of drug users in the United States. When someone becomes addicted in their home environment, goes to a clinic to get clean, and then returns to their old neighborhood, they're immediately confronted with all the cues that originally led to their addiction. It's no wonder that relapse rates in these situations are often as high as 90%, the exact opposite of what was observed with the Vietnam veterans. These findings challenge our cultural narrative about bad habits and addiction. For decades, we've been told that unhealthy behaviors, whether it's drug addiction, overeating, or smoking, are primarily a result of moral weakness or lack of self-control. We've internalized the idea that if we just had more discipline, we could overcome any bad habit. However, recent research paints a different picture. When scientists study people who appear to have exceptional self-control, they find that these individuals aren't fundamentally different from those who struggle. The key difference is that people with high self-control are better at structuring their lives in ways that minimize temptation. In essence, they create environments that support their goals, reducing the need for constant willpower battles. This insight is profound. The people with the best self-control are often those who need to use it the least. They're not constantly resisting temptation, they're avoiding it altogether by shaping their environment. This doesn't mean that perseverance and willpower are unimportant. Rather, it suggests that the most effective way to improve these qualities is not by willing ourselves to be more disciplined, but by creating more disciplined environments. To understand why this approach is so powerful, we need to look at how habits are formed and encoded in the brain. Once a habit is established, it becomes a ready-to-use pattern of behavior that can be triggered whenever the relevant situation arises. This encoding is so strong that it can persist for decades, even if the habit isn't practiced. Consider the case of Patty Orwell, a therapist from Austin, Texas. When she was younger, she often smoked while riding horses with a friend. She eventually quit smoking and stopped riding horses. Years later, when she rode a horse again, she suddenly found herself craving a cigarette for the first time in ages. The association between horse riding and smoking was still encoded in her brain, just waiting for the right cue to reactivate it. This persistence of encoded habits explains why many behavior change techniques can backfire. When we expose people to cues associated with their bad habits, we can inadvertently trigger the very behaviors we're trying to stop. For example, shame-based weight loss presentations can stress obese individuals, leading them to turn to their familiar coping mechanism, overeating. Similarly, showing graphic images of damaged lungs to smokers can increase anxiety, driving them to reach for a cigarette to calm down. The power of environmental cues in triggering habits also explains why bad habits can be so persistent and self-reinforcing. They often create a negative feedback loop, what we might call an autocatalytic process. The habit feeds itself. You feel bad, so you eat junk food. Because you eat junk food, you feel bad, you feel sluggish from watching too much TV, so you continue watching because you lack the energy to do anything else. You worry about your health, which makes you anxious, so you smoke to ease the anxiety, which in turn worsens your health and increases your anxiety. It's a downward spiral that can feel impossible to escape. Understanding this dynamic is crucial for anyone looking to break bad habits or establish good ones. It highlights the importance of creating environments that support our goals rather than undermine them. This might mean removing temptations from our immediate surroundings, changing our routines to avoid triggering situations, or intentionally introducing cues that prompt positive behaviors. For instance, if you're trying to eat healthier, simply willing yourself to make better choices isn't enough. You need to reshape your food environment. This could involve removing junk food from your home, pre-preparing healthy meals, or changing your commute to avoid passing your favorite fast food restaurants. By reducing your exposure to unhealthy food cues and increasing healthy ones, you make it easier to stick to your goals without constantly battling temptation. Similarly, if you're aiming to be more productive, relying solely on willpower to ignore distractions is a losing battle. Instead, you might create a dedicated workspace free from the cues that trigger procrastination. This could mean working in a different room from where you relax, using website blockers during work hours, or even wearing specific work clothes that signal to your brain it's time to focus. The principle extends to digital environments as well. In our hyper-connected world, our devices often serve multiple, sometimes conflicting purposes. Your smartphone might be both a vital work tool and your primary source of entertainment. This mixing of contexts can make it challenging to maintain focus or avoid procrastination. One strategy to combat this is to create distinct digital environments for different purposes. For example, you might use your computer solely for work, your tablet for reading, and your phone for communication and social media. By separating these contexts, you create clearer cues for your brain about what behavior is appropriate in each situation. This approach of creating distinct environments for different habits is powerful, but it can be challenging in practice, especially for those living in small spaces or with limited resources. However, even in constrained circumstances, it's possible to create activity zones within a single space. A specific chair might be designated for reading, a particular corner for meditation, or a certain table for focused work. The key is consistency. By repeatedly using these spaces for their designated purposes, you strengthen the association between the environment and the desired behavior. It's worth noting that while changing your environment can be a powerful tool for habit change, it's not a magic solution. Old habits don't disappear, they remain encoded in our brains, waiting for the right cues to reactivate them. This is why people who have quit smoking for years might suddenly crave a cigarette in a high-stress situation, or why someone who has maintained a healthy diet might binge on food during a particularly emotional time. The persistence of these encoded habits underscores the importance of ongoing environmental management. It's not enough to create a supportive environment once we need to continually reinforce it and be mindful of potential triggers. This might mean avoiding certain situations entirely, having strategies in place for when we can't avoid triggers, or regularly reassessing and adjusting our environment as our goals and circumstances change. Moreover, it's crucial to recognize that our environment extends beyond our physical surroundings. Our social connections, daily routines, and even our internal dialogue all form part of the context that shapes our habits. Changing habits often requires addressing these aspects as well. This might involve seeking out new social circles that support our goals, establishing routines that reinforce positive behaviors, or working on our self-talk to create a more supportive internal environment. The implications of this environmental approach to habit change are far-reaching. On a personal level, it offers a more compassionate and effective way to approach self-improvement. Rather than berating ourselves for lack of willpower, we can focus on creating environments that make good habits easier and bad habits harder. This shift in perspective can reduce shame and increase our sense of agency in shaping our behaviors. On a broader scale, this understanding has significant implications for public health and policy. Instead of relying solely on education or willpower-based interventions, we should be focusing on creating environments that naturally promote healthier choices. This could involve urban planning that encourages physical activity, workplace designs that reduce stress and promote well-being, or food policies that make healthy options more accessible and affordable. In conclusion, the secret to self-control and lasting habit change lies not in Herculean feats of willpower, but in the thoughtful design of our environment. By understanding the powerful role that context plays in shaping our behavior, we can create surroundings that naturally guide us towards our goals. This approach doesn't eliminate the need for effort or commitment, but it does make the path of positive change much smoother and more sustainable. As we navigate the complexities of modern life with its myriad distractions and temptations, this environmental perspective on habit formation becomes increasingly valuable. It empowers us to be active architects of our own behavior, shaping our surroundings to support the person we aspire to be. Whether we're trying to break a bad habit, establish a good one, or simply live more intentionally, the key often lies in the world we create around us. By mastering our environment, we can master ourselves. Habits are powerful shapers of our identities and lives. Each action we take, no matter how small, serves as a vote for the type of person we aspire to be. When we finish reading a book, we cast a vote for being someone who values knowledge and literature. When we hit the gym, we're voting for a health-conscious identity. Practicing an instrument is a vote for musicianship. These individual actions may seem insignificant in isolation, but over time they accumulate into compelling evidence of who we are becoming. This perspective on habit formation offers a refreshing take on personal growth. It suggests that meaningful change doesn't necessarily require drastic measures or overnight transformations. Instead, it's the consistent, small habits that can make a profound difference by gradually building up evidence of a new identity. This is the paradox of incremental improvement. What seems like minor progress can actually lead to significant change when viewed through the lens of identity formation. Consider how this plays out in various aspects of life. Each time you put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard, you reinforce your identity as a writer. Every practice session with a musical instrument strengthens your musician identity. Starting a workout, regardless of its intensity or duration, is an affirmation of your athletic self. When you take the time to encourage and support your team members, you're cementing your role as a leader. But the impact of these habits goes beyond just achieving specific outcomes or developing skills. Perhaps more importantly, they teach us to trust ourselves. As we consistently follow through on our intentions, we begin to believe in our ability to accomplish our goals. This growing self-trust is a powerful force that can propel us forward in all areas of life. It's crucial to recognize that this process works both ways. Just as positive habits reinforce desirable identities, negative habits can solidify less desirable ones. Every time we give in to procrastination, for instance, we're casting a vote for being someone who lacks discipline. When we choose unhealthy foods over nutritious options, we're voting for an identity that doesn't prioritize well-being. However, the good news is that perfection isn't necessary. In any election, there are always votes for both sides. The key is to win the majority. This means that occasional slip-ups or bad habits don't negate our progress, as long as we're consistently making choices that align with our desired identity more often than not. This understanding of habit formation as identity shaping leads us to a simple but powerful two-step process for personal transformation. First, we must decide on the type of person we want to become. Then, we prove it to ourselves through small, consistent wins. The first step, deciding who we want to be, is arguably the most challenging. It requires deep introspection and honesty about our values, principles, and aspirations. This applies not just to individuals, but to teams, communities, and even nations. What do we stand for? What principles guide our actions? Who do we aspire to become? For many, these questions can feel overwhelming. It's often easier to focus on specific outcomes we want to achieve: losing weight, reducing anxiety, or increasing our income. While these goals are valid starting points, the key is to work backward from these desired results to the type of person who could achieve them. Who is the kind of person that maintains a healthy weight? Who embodies the calm and centeredness we associate with low anxiety? Who has the skills, mindset, and habits that lead to financial success? This shift in focus from outcome-based thinking to identity-based thinking can be transformative. Instead of fixating on writing a book, we concentrate on becoming the type of person who writes consistently. Rather than obsessing over a target weight, we focus on embodying the habits and mindset of a healthy person. This approach aligns our daily actions with our deepest values and aspirations. Once we've clarified our desired identity, the second step is to reinforce it through small, consistent actions. These don't need to be grand gestures or dramatic changes. In fact, it's often the seemingly insignificant choices that have the most profound impact over time. Choosing to walk instead of drive, opting for a salad over fast food, or spending 10 minutes reading before bed, these small decisions, repeated consistently, shape our identity far more than occasional bursts of motivation or short-lived resolutions. This process creates a powerful feedback loop. Our habits shape our identity, and our identity, in turn, influences our habits. As we consistently act in alignment with our desired identity, we strengthen our belief in that identity, which makes it easier to maintain those habits. This virtuous cycle can lead to profound and lasting change. It's important to note that this approach to habit formation and personal growth is not about achieving specific external measures of success. While habits can certainly help us reach goals like earning more money, losing weight, or reducing stress, their true value lies in their ability to shape our identity. They are the means through which we develop and reinforce our deepest beliefs about ourselves. This perspective on habits offers a more holistic and sustainable approach to personal development. Instead of chasing fleeting goals or external validation, we focus on becoming the type of person we aspire to be. This shift in focus can lead to more meaningful and lasting change as our actions become aligned with our core values and desired identity. Moreover, this approach to habit formation acknowledges the fluid nature of identity. We are not fixed entities, but rather dynamic beings capable of growth and change. Our identity is not set in stone, it's a choice we make in every moment through our actions and habits. This realization is empowering, as it puts the power of change squarely in our own hands. The process of identity-based habit formation also highlights the importance of patience and consistency. Meaningful change doesn't happen overnight. It's the result of countless small actions and decisions made consistently over time. This understanding can help us stay committed to our goals, even when progress seems slow or setbacks occur. Additionally, this approach to personal growth encourages a more compassionate attitude towards ourselves. Instead of berating ourselves for failures or slip-ups, we can view them as part of the natural process of change. As long as we're winning the majority of the time, casting more votes for our desired identity than against it, we're moving in the right direction. This perspective on habits and identity formation has implications beyond individual growth. It can be applied to organizational change, community development, and even societal transformation. By focusing on the type of organization, community, or society we want to be, and consistently taking actions that align with that vision, we can create meaningful change on a larger scale. In conclusion, the power of habits lies not just in their ability to help us achieve specific goals, but in their capacity to shape our very identity. By focusing on who we want to become rather than what we want to achieve, we can create more meaningful and lasting change in our lives. Through consistent small actions, we cast votes for our desired identity, gradually becoming the person we aspire to be. This process of continuous self-evolution, guided by our deepest values and aspirations, is the true essence of personal growth and fulfillment. As we align our habits with our desired identity, we not only improve our lives but also contribute to positive change in our communities and the world at large. The human brain is a remarkable organ, constantly adapting and evolving to help us navigate the complexities of life. One of its most fascinating abilities is the formation of habits, automatic behaviors that allow us to function efficiently in our daily lives. Understanding how habits form and why they're so crucial to our success can provide valuable insights into human behavior and personal growth. Let's start by exploring the fundamental nature of habits. At their core, habits are behaviors that have been repeated so frequently that they become automatic. This process of habit formation begins with a period of trial and error, much like the experiences of the cats in Edward Thorndike's famous puzzle box experiments. When we encounter a new situation or challenge, our brain must decide how to respond. Initially, we may feel uncertain, trying different approaches to see what works best. This period is characterized by high neurological activity as our brain carefully analyzes the situation, taking in new information and making conscious decisions about how to act. Through this process of exploration, we occasionally stumble upon a solution that works well, a behavior that solves our problem or provides a reward. Perhaps we discover that going for a run helps alleviate anxiety, or that playing video games after work helps us unwind from a stressful day. These discoveries are pivotal moments in habit formation. Once we experience an unexpected reward, our brain immediately begins to take notice. It starts cataloging the events that preceded the reward, trying to identify the actions that led to this positive outcome. This is the essence of learning. Our brain is constantly seeking to understand cause-effect relationships in our environment. With repeated practice, our brain refines this process. Useless actions fade away, while beneficial behaviors are reinforced. This is how a habit begins to take shape. Over time, what once required conscious effort becomes automatic, a reliable solution to a recurring problem in our environment. As habits form, an interesting neurological shift occurs. The level of brain activity actually decreases. This is because our brain has learned to focus on the cues that predict success and ignore everything else. It creates a mental shortcut: if this situation arises, then perform this action. This cognitive script can be followed automatically whenever the appropriate situation presents itself. This automation is incredibly beneficial from an evolutionary perspective. Habits are, in essence, mental shortcuts learned from experience. They allow us to efficiently solve problems we've encountered before without having to analyze the situation anew each time. This frees up our conscious mind, the bottleneck of the brain, to focus on novel challenges and more complex tasks. The formation of habits follows a consistent pattern that can be broken down into 4 key stages: cue, craving, response, and reward. Understanding this pattern can provide valuable insights into how we can shape our own behavior and build positive habits. The process begins with a cue, a bit of information that predicts a reward. In our ancestral environment, these cues might have signaled the location of food, water, or potential mates. Today, we're more often attuned to cues that predict secondary rewards like money, status, approval, or personal satisfaction. Importantly, these modern pursuits still indirectly improve our odds of survival and reproduction, tapping into our deepest evolutionary motivations. The cue triggers a craving, the motivational force behind every habit. Without some level of motivation or desire, we have no reason to act. What we crave is not the habit itself, but the change in state it delivers. We don't crave smoking a cigarette, we crave the feeling of relief it provides. We don't crave watching TV, we crave the entertainment and relaxation it offers. The response is the actual habit you perform, which can take the form of a thought or an action. Whether a response occurs depends on how motivated you are and how much friction is associated with the behavior. If a particular action requires more physical or mental effort than you're willing to expend, you won't do it. Finally, the reward is the end goal of every habit. We chase rewards because they satisfy our cravings and teach us which actions are worth remembering in the future. The cue is about noticing the reward. The craving is about wanting the reward. The response is about obtaining the reward. In fact, we can understand the entire habit loop as a continuous cycle aimed at reward acquisition. This 4-stage pattern plays out in countless ways in our daily lives, often without our conscious awareness. For instance, consider the habit of checking your phone. The cue might be a notification sound or simply feeling bored. This triggers a craving for distraction or connection. The response is to pick up your phone and check your apps. The reward is the momentary entertainment or social connection you experience. Understanding this pattern can be incredibly empowering. It allows us to dissect our existing habits and intentionally shape new ones. By manipulating the cues in our environment, managing our cravings, simplifying our desired responses, and enhancing the rewards associated with positive behaviors, we can effectively rewire our habits. However, it's crucial to recognize that habit formation is not about achieving perfection. It's about winning the majority of the time. Every action is a vote for the type of person you want to become. You don't need a unanimous vote to win an election, you just need a majority. Therefore, it's okay if you make a mistake or slip up occasionally. The goal is to tally up enough votes for your desired identity over time. This perspective on habit formation offers a more compassionate and realistic approach to personal growth. Instead of beating ourselves up over occasional failures, we can focus on consistently making choices that align with our desired identity more often than not. Moreover, this approach to habit formation acknowledges the fluid nature of identity. We are not fixed entities, but dynamic beings capable of growth and change. Our identity emerges from our habits, and our habits shape our identity in turn. This creates a powerful feedback loop that can lead to profound personal transformation over time. It's worth noting that while habits can be incredibly beneficial, some people worry that too much routine might make life dull or restrict their freedom. However, this concern sets up a false dichotomy between habits and freedom. In reality, good habits create freedom by automating the mundane aspects of life, freeing up mental resources for more important tasks and decisions. Consider financial habits, for instance. Good financial habits like regularly saving a portion of your income or tracking your expenses might seem restrictive in the short term. However, these habits ultimately create more freedom by providing financial stability and options in the long run. Similarly, good health habits might require some discipline initially, but they provide the energy and vitality needed to fully engage in life's experiences. In essence, habits are tools that can be leveraged to create the life we desire. They are not about restricting our choices, but about aligning our automatic behaviors with our deepest values and aspirations. By thoughtfully cultivating positive habits, we can automate the fundamentals of life, creating the mental space needed for creativity, growth, and the pursuit of our most meaningful goals. It's also important to recognize that habits exist on a spectrum of automaticity. Some habits are so ingrained that they occur completely without conscious thought, while others may require some level of intentionality, especially in their early stages of formation. This spectrum allows for flexibility in how we approach habit formation and modification. Furthermore, habits don't exist in isolation. They are part of larger systems in our lives, often interconnected in complex ways. A single keystone habit can trigger a cascade of positive changes across various areas of life. For example, developing a regular exercise habit might lead to better eating choices, improved sleep, increased productivity, and enhanced mood. As we deepen our understanding of habits, we can also appreciate their role in shaping not just individual lives, but entire societies. Collective habits form the basis of culture, and changing societal norms often involves shifting the habits of many individuals. This perspective highlights the profound impact that personal habit change can have on a larger scale. In conclusion, habits are far more than just repetitive behaviors. They are the building blocks of our identities, the shapers of our daily experiences, and the determinants of our long-term outcomes. By understanding the science of habit formation and leveraging this knowledge in our lives, we can take conscious control of our automatic behaviors, aligning them with our deepest values and aspirations. This journey of habit formation and identity shaping is not about achieving perfection or adhering to rigid routines. Instead, it's about making consistent, small choices that compound over time, gradually sculpting us into the individuals we aspire to be. It's a process of continuous growth and refinement, where each small action is a vote for our desired identity. As we navigate this process, it's crucial to approach it with patience, self-compassion, and a long-term perspective. Meaningful change doesn't happen overnight, but through the accumulation of many small, consistent actions over time. By focusing on the process rather than just the outcome, we can find joy and fulfillment in the journey of personal growth itself. Ultimately, mastering our habits is about taking control of our own evolution. It's about consciously shaping our behaviors, our identities, and by extension, our lives. In doing so, we don't just change our routines, we change our worlds, opening up new possibilities and creating the freedom to live life on our own terms. The intricate workings of human behavior have long fascinated scientists, psychologists, and individuals seeking personal growth. At the heart of our daily actions lies a powerful force: habits. These automated behaviors shape our lives in profound ways, often operating below the surface of our conscious awareness. Understanding the mechanics of habit formation can unlock the potential for meaningful personal change and growth. At its core, every habit follows a predictable pattern, a loop that consists of 4 key stages: cue, craving, response, and reward. This habit loop is not just a theoretical construct, but a neurological reality that plays out countless times each day in our lives. The journey of a habit begins with a cue. This is a trigger, a bit of information that predicts a potential reward. In our modern world, cues can take many forms: the ping of a smartphone notification,